僕をダメなやつと思う鏡を見つめる僕を見下げているけど中には大きな力希望がある Maybe I'm a little young but you don't know what I become Can't you see it in my face What you think about when you're born into a fire let them burn it out sell them to the richest buyer they wanna let the world decay they tell us lies and fade away we feel betrayed ourselves never let the truth fade away this is bigger than ourselves we won't let the world burn away we feel betrayed we were raised to lose the race wake up to the back of the pack kill it anyway to blame Number figured out, a motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Simple, dear, I'll still be here when you're gone. You gather souvenirs, but I will never be your pawn, your pawn, your pawn. My love was in ever again. I lay my cards out on the table. There's nothing to gain. I become a little too shy for love? I've been hurt before, all's fair in love. Something's wrong, I feel it circling like vultures around my brain. Couldn't see the danger in your eyes. Draw me in, got me spinning now like water to a drain. You were perfect till I realized you hadn't shown your face. You sing a pretty song.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the October 11th. I couldn't remember my dates for a second there. The October 11th, 2021 episode of the cybersecurity stream. My name, as always, is Neal Bridges, and thank you for joining me tonight. Real conversations with real people, that is what we are about, and you can catch us here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the cybersecurity channel. Listen to me. We decided to cut our intro really short because we realized that that it was getting kind of long. So cut a whole lot of meat basically out of the intro. So took me a little bit of off kilter there, a little bit to remember that I was not going to roll into my typical intro. Listen to me. Super important note. Right, we're just going to really cover down on just kind of like a couple of major things in the intro. Right. First and foremost, you are not out of your league on this channel. You are not out of your league on this channel. Listen to me. This is the biggest thing that I want to get across to people. No matter how many years you've been in cybersecurity, no matter your discipline, whether it's red team, blue team, risk and governance, it does not matter. We are here. We are all here. This entire community, our guests, this entire ecosystem is here to discuss the industry impacts of the current landscape and really the art of the possible when dealing with today's cybersecurity issues. So the most important thing to remember is that whether you are an experienced veteran, Thank you so very much for being here and sharing your perspective and your experience with everybody in this chat, everybody on this stream, everybody who's going to watch this VOD in the future. Whether you're new to the field, thank you so very much for trusting us with your career growth, with your journey, with the knowledge that you're going to gain from the content on this channel. Thank you so very much. Whether you barely know how to spell cyber, it's real easy. It's CYBER. Or somebody who was born into cyber, this stream right here that we're dealing with is for you. I promise you that. We are all here for everybody to participate and learn from this community. We only cover down on 2 major rules here in the channel. So let's cover down on those super fast. We do have moderators in chat. Mad respect for the moderators at all times. And I want to personally thank my moderators each and every stream for their dedication. Moderators are here to keep... Let me try that one again without the tongue twisting. Moderators are here to keep chat free from sexist, racist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. We have a zero tolerance for toxicity on this channel. We do not tolerate it. I do trust my moderators explicitly, and their decision is final. If you're put on a timeout or a ban, you appeal to a moderator. You don't appeal to me. This is a great time to remind you to hit that ! Discord. Get that Discord information. That way you can communicate with the moderators in case there is any issues that you need to address. They are not here, however, to stifle chat. Let me say that again. Let me be explicitly clear. Moderators are not here to stifle chat whatsoever. They are here to make sure that your voice is heard. And when I say that your voice gets heard, I am incredibly passionate about your voice getting heard. I'll be answering questions on stream, but I know that is not why you are here. You are not here to hear from me. You are here to hear from our very, very awesome and very special guest, and she will be here to answer your questions as well. Your questions are so important to all of us. And when I say us, I like to tell this story because I want to make sure you understand how important your questions are. There have been numerous cases where somebody has asked a question and there are people who say, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question." Or there's a comment that I'll get in the video in the VOD section that says, "I'm so glad that this question was asked. This is exactly the question that I was dealing with." That's how important one question can change the course of anybody's career or anybody's thought. And so they are so important to the live stream, and they are so important to the VODs that happen afterwards. And they are, listen to me, they are the prime value that comes from this stream being live. Nowhere else are you going to be able to get direct access to the professionals and experts that we bring here on this channel, especially in a live setting. So this is your time to get the knowledge and benefit of having direct access to some of these awesome people that we bring on stream. However, the one rule we have, y'all know it, I say it every stream, ask your question only once. Asking it more than once may be considered spamming, may result in a timeout or a ban. I do promise you that we do have moderators in chat who do see your question and make sure that we get as many answered on our time on stream together. I promise you that. We do broadcast via YouTube for our regularly scheduled broadcast, but you can find all the videos, all the VODs in the video section on our YouTube channel. Do make sure you hit that ! Socials and follow us on Twitter. I almost said Twitch, YouTube, and all of our other social media accounts. I did just post up Instagram stories today. There is also a Q&A. There is a Q&A on our YouTube story. So if you're looking for that personalized, "Hey, Neal, I've got a question. Let me get a personalized response from you," head on over to our YouTube page. Click on that icon for cyber and security. You'll see a Q&A section that you can comment a question, and you, my friend, will get a personalized response. At the end of the day, we are here for you, the community, and we do strive to bring you the most intriguing opinions, points of view, and conversations in the cyber industry each and every stream. We appreciate all of our subscribers. We appreciate all of our members. Thank you so very much. First and foremost, I want to thank all of our veterans for their service and sacrifice. I'd also like to thank our partners in no particular order: Battleship Security, Attack IQ, Elastic, Query.ai, VMware, Carbon Black, Net Abstraction, US Cyber Games, where we're an official media partner, Josh Mason and the Cyber Supply Drop, and of course, At Root Beverages. This is not an At Root beverage, but I will sip it anyway, as if I were pretending it was At Root. They do provide prizes and discounts for you, the viewers. They are the reason that we are able to give away so much on stream. So we do ask that you hit that ! Partners. Do go support our partners. At the end of the day, we ultimately do this for you, the viewers, and none of this would be possible without you. So our biggest thanks at the end of the day, at the end of every stream, goes out to you. Thank you. We have been, and we will continue to deliver you content as long as we can, and any all proceeds earned on the stream do go directly to continuing to improve the quality of the content and the giveaways. Thank you so very much for that. Let's head on over here. Thank you so much, Durst, for the super chat. Let's do this. Rip Twitch. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, DJ Darnell. Welcome to the membership club. Thank you so much. Keel, Neal, Vale, M, thank you so much for the membership. Appreciate all of you all. Awesome. I know most of you are super excited to hear about the Healthy Hackers Challenge. I don't want to belabor the point with our guests hanging anxiously in the green room to come on stream. So if you want to hear about Healthy Hackers, you will have to wait until the end of the stream when we get done with our super awesome guest for tonight. I knew you were hoping that I'd do it at the beginning, but I'm not gonna put our guests through that. You guys have to wait for the end for Healthy Hackers, okay? All right. So with that being said, as you can tell, like I built up a lot of hype around this stream. I am an amazing fan of our guest tonight. She has done some amazing research. She's done some amazing work. Our paths have crossed a couple of times. She's an incredible inspiration to the cybersecurity community as a whole. On behalf of this entire community, I would very, very much like to welcome Alissa Knight to the stream. Alissa has started and sold 2 cybersecurity companies, written a book on hacking cars. Currently, Alissa is a cybersecurity influencer, content creator, community manager, partner at Knight Inc., principal security analyst, sits as the group's CEO for Briar and Thorn, and writing 2 more books. Everybody in chat, put your hype hands together for Alissa Knight. Alissa, on behalf of my community, my moderator team, myself, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your introduction?
Sure. Thanks, Neal. I really appreciate you having me on the show. It's great to be here. And thank you all of those in your audience who joined us tonight. Well, one thing is I'm not group CEO of Briar and Thorn anymore. I did step down from that board of directors, but that's my fault because it's probably an old bio that I failed to update. I'm a recovering hacker of 21 years. Typical Hollywood story, arrested for hacking into a government network when I was 17. Went to go work for the U.S. intelligence community in cyber warfare shortly after that when the charges were dropped. And now I moved to Stuttgart, Germany, started hacking connected cars, published the first book on hacking connected cars. Pretty much have been branded as an API hacker at this point. In 2019, I hacked 30 banks through their APIs in less than a week. 2020, I hacked 30 health apps and APIs in less than a week. Now, in just a few days, I'm going to be dropping some new research where I've hacked 30 fire APIs in healthcare in less than a week. And the interesting thing here is also, if any of you have followed me on YouTube, I've got a YouTube video out there of me hacking federal and state law enforcement vehicles through APIs, where I took remote control of their vehicles, and then it made for a pretty interesting documentary. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I run a family of companies: Knight Publishing, Knight Entertainment. Now that Mr. Robot has ended, I'm sorry, we could do a whole show on my bio, I promise it. So now that Mr. Robot has ended, I was approached to start a new TV series that's based on my life, where the protagonist is a woman. So I'm writing a screenplay now with Knight Entertainment, and just finished the pilot episode. So it's going to be a new TV series, probably airing on Netflix. So I'm doing a lot of stuff right now, but ultimately the net of it is I'm a consultant. I blend my experience as a hacker with filmmaking and content creation for cybersecurity vendors.
That's awesome, and I do have to ask, right? Because I think one of the things that people love about your bio, and that I actually got in DMs and we saw in chat when we announced that you were going to be on here, is this idea of a recovering hacker. What's kind of the story behind using that nomenclature and calling yourself a recovering hacker?
I think I just got so tired of calling myself an ethical hacker. There's really no sexy answer to that other than like, Jesus, like, I'm so tired of saying this. It really, to me, I'll always be a hacker. I've always been a hacker. I'll always be a hacker. And, I've always believed that what can be made by humans can be broken by humans. So
that's awesome.
That's my pitch.
That's awesome. I love the tagline. I think the tagline is awesome. We had you and I
It
commented.
gets chuckles.
Yeah, it does. It really does. You and I commented on Ryan Rutan's post on something else,
Yeah.
earlier, and we had him on and talking about the definition of what a hacker is, and I think that's what gets lost is exactly what you said, is that it's that creative mentality, that idea that anything can be broken, and I just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's, to me, hacking is really nothing more special. There's really no more magic to it than just sending stimulus to an application that the developer didn't expect to receive. That's pretty much all hacking is to me. You learn how something works, and then you figure out things that the developer didn't think about. That's hacking. And I'm a big believer in the whole religious and polarized debate over whether or not you need to be a programmer to be a hacker. I'm
So what is your stance on that?
Obviously, no. Yeah, it's like, and I think it's a silly, I hope I'm not offending anyone in the audience, but I think it's a silly argument in the first place. There was this thread that started on Twitter that said, if you're not a real hacker if you don't have any CVEs to your name. The whole idea is really ridiculous to me, because if you think about it, how do you defeat an enemy that's much more resourced than you, that's much larger than you, that's much more powerful than you, against themselves? And I think the inclusion of more women in cybersecurity and LGBTQ, and just hashtag more, please, because I think they want us to, the adversaries want to be divisive. They want us to disenfranchise certain parts of the community because it makes us more weak. So I'm a big believer in, you don't need CVEs to your name. You don't need to be a programmer. Some of the best hackers in the world that I've ever met can't write a single line of code. I'm one of them. And I published the first VPN on hacking VPNs in 2001 and spoke about it at Black Hat briefings. I didn't need to know how to code or how to decrypt triple DES, but it was still possible.
No, I think those are key lessons. That's a lot of the questions that we definitely get are things like programming languages and all of that. And I'm glad to hear you kind of share that vision as well, because it's one of those huge misconceptions. I want to piggyback over to something that you had kind of started on a little bit as well, and I want to kind of go into that. I don't know if you knew or not. I don't know if my community knew or not, but yesterday, October 10th, was World Mental Health Day. You do a ton of stuff. How do you manage your mental health with everything it is that you've got going on?
I don't. I'm absolutely crazy. I'm actually coming in. I had to request permission from the doctors to remove me from my straitjacket to do this interview. I'm actually in a mental institution right now.
I believe it. It looks really good. It looks good back there.
I have a dry sense of humor, so sorry. Here's the thing. I'm obsessed with reading books, specifically self-help books. And one of the best books that I ever read was written by a gentleman by the name of Chris Bailey, called Hyperfocus. And it's basically this idea that we now live in a world of distraction, and getting away from this idea of multitasking to single tasking, and actually managing your time in your day in 30-minute blocks. So what I do is I get up at 4 a.m. And then the night before I get up, I actually fill out a daily task sheet that I've tuned over the last 10 years. And customized, where on the right-hand side, I've got 30-minute blocks for my day. And if you're familiar with the concept of $0 based budgeting, it's where you assign every incoming dollar or job into your household. I assign every 30-minute block to a task. So I identify the 3 most important tasks that I need to get done that day across the different companies that I run, along with my wife. And then all of my goals, what I'm thankful for, I take a moment to pause and think about my gratitudes of what I'm thankful for. And then the top 3 most important tasks based on time, so long and short, and then I assign them to 30-minute blocks in the day. So every single minute of my day is accounted for. Which is, and it's interesting. We never stop to think about how much time we spend in email, or how much time we spend just kind of, doing this or doing that, or browsing around on Amazon, or, so I'm very calculated about and methodical about my time management. So, if you think about it, I've got Knight Entertainment. We've got all this family of companies under Knight Holdings that my wife and I run. We have Knight Capital, we have Knight Publishing, we have Knight Inc., we have Briar and Thorn. So we have all these companies, and the only way that I can do it is to remind myself that I have just as much time in the day as Tim Cook does and the homeless man on the street. So what am I going to do with my time? And so I'm very, very calculated when it comes to my time management.
I think that that's awesome, because I do think that we forget. I think you've got the same amount of time in the day as Tim Cook and the homeless man on the street is a very, very clippable type of comment, because when people talk about I just don't have time to do this, or I just don't have time to do that, or things like that, I think that they forget that we've all got the same amount of time during the day. We've just got to figure out, to your point, that what is that cost of doing that, and how do you allocate that time appropriately when you do it. So I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because when I started, and I can't take credit for this. I actually was introduced to the idea from a company called Self Journal, Best Self Co. They created the Self Journal, and it's the idea that instead of creating an annual, a New Year's resolution, you create 13-week goals, and you make sure that everything that you do throughout the day and throughout that 13 weeks is actually working towards achieving that goal. So it's this goal-based idea that we should do them in 13-week chunks, and that every single time in your day needs to be assigned to doing something. If I'm sitting there, like I actually will get upset if I've budgeted out 30 minutes for my lunch break and it goes over that, because I know that I'm eating into that next task. So it's just trying to be as methodical as I can about what I'm doing at any given time.
Do you find yourself in more burnout or less burnout, as a result of kind of doing things the way that you're doing it?
I think for me, one of the things that changed my life, and what I'm able to actually be productive at, right? Like, I think we're all very busy, but very few of us are actually productive. Right. So you can be really busy today, but what did you actually achieve or accomplish? And one of the best books I ever read was something called Eat That Frog. And it's the idea that throughout the time of the day, as the day goes on, you actually are less and less likely to do the things that you hate. So it's the idea that you take the things that you hate to do, like, eat that big frog first. I mean, like, do the things at the beginning of your day that you hate to do, that you don't want to do. Like, if you don't want to do that pen test report, do it the first thing in the day, or, anything, like, fill in the blank here. But, we've all filled out those pen test reports. But, for me, it's so important, because that's why they say you should never really work out at the gym at the end of the day, because you're less likely to actually go to the gym at the end of the day than you are in the morning. So I'm very conscious about what I decide to do and when I do it in the day, because I know that soon as noon hits, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up until midnight, I only want to do the things that I like to do. And I think it does actually help contribute towards preventing burnout, because if I get the things that I hate to do and don't want to do, and which would cause you to just be sedentary and sit in front of the TV on the couch, binge watching Netflix, it's probably because you've got a bunch of tasks in front of you that you don't want to do. So I get those out of the way first, and then the rest of my day can be spent on things I love doing.
Hear that, all you procrastinators out there? Excellent advice from the one and only Alissa Knight right here.
And cut.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like we got a question come in from Dragonfly that says, do you schedule time for free time for yourself as well?
Oh, that's a great question. So my free time is disconnecting, which is at the gym, right? So I get up at 4 a.m. I'm at the gym by about 4:30. I start out running for 30 minutes. I do 30 minutes of weight training, and then I spend 30 minutes meditating. And during that entire time, I'm doing nothing but listening to music. I'm not on my phone. Like, you'll see people at the gym like, oh my God, check into LinkedIn. I got to check on my YouTube. I got to check on my... Like, I'm not on my phone. I'm just using it for music. So that an hour and a half, including the 30 minutes of transcendental meditation, is me disconnecting. And so for me, that's my free time that you're talking about scheduling. And then also making sure that I actually carve time out for training. So every day I made sure that when I sign up for all these training courses, whether it's editing film or cinematography or anything else, that I'm carving time out to build my capacity and actually take that training. Because I just feel like we're in an era now. We live in a very exciting time where we have so much access to so many things, so much data, so much training, where, it's not really about whether or not we can find the training or afford the training, because so much of it is now free, like securityytube.net, influencers, like the show you're on right now, with Neal. But all of that is available to you now. It's not whether or not you can afford it. Also, because we do actually make so much money in this industry, it's, are you taking the time out to take that training? Do you know how many people I've met where they paid for training, several $1,000s for training, and they didn't end up taking it because they never made time for it and it had expired? That happens so much. And I know that if I don't consciously carve time out of my day for that training to read this book or watch this video, that I'm never going to do it. There's just not, and so that's for me. I never want to be that girl that says, I didn't have time for that. Because if we actually go in there, and you will shock yourself. There's an app you can install on your computer that will actually track what you do. Everything from the sites and how much time you spend on them to every app you open.
Is it TikTok?
And no, that's the antithesis of that, right? It's a single TikTok app running all day long. But it will actually shock you when you find out how much time you spend that adds up doing all these things that isn't actually contributing to the things you need to get done that day.
No, I love the point that you made before about the making the time and how many people pay thousands of dollars for training and then never go take it. One of the mantras that we have here on the stream is to prioritize the free stuff first, because then you can at least stretch your legs, get into the habit of doing training on the free stuff before you pay thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that whole don't go out there and buy the most expensive cinema camera and cinema lenses as your first camera, because what if you find out that you're just not as into it as you thought you were? Then you've got a $15,000 cinema camera that you've used once. Use the cheap stuff, use the free stuff first, and then if you find that you're actually taking the time out to do it, then you can start investing in it. But there's so much... I don't know if this is the right channel.
Go for it.
If you don't know what meditation...
Oh, you're not supposed to be reading the questions first. We talked about this.
Sorry. I couldn't help it. I'm like, well, I don't know. I think you need a whole other channel. I'm sorry. I'm being mean. I don't know if that was a joke or... Anyway, but it's... Anyway, I lost track of what
it's okay. That's okay. I think Jermaine's asking you mentioned a type of meditation that you were doing.
I thought he was. I'm sorry, I misread. I was like, what? I thought he said, "What is meditation?" I'm like,
oh
no. So anyway, I'm sorry. That was my bad. So the type of meditation that I do is called transcendental meditation, and it's really intense. And honestly, if one thing that a lot of you, and this is a great question actually, because there are different types of meditations, and one of the things that I do need to say is that, and Neal, I'm sure you can attest to this, we work in a very high stress industry.
Yeah.
We, it's very cynical. It's very more elite than thou. Arrogance runs very high in our industry, and it's really easy to be caught up in that. And my wife just totally brought up me a date shake. I'm so excited about this. Sorry. But yeah, so meditation, all of you all need to be doing it. It's so important. I hope you guys don't mind if I
No, have at it. Hopefully she added a little spike to the drink here. Okay. Awesome mental health conversation. We do love to talk about and focus on mental health because we do believe that it is one of the under-discussed topics that we have in our industry for exactly the reasons that you mentioned.
It's so important.
It really is. It really is. And we are in a high stress. You hit all the points, right? High stress, egos run so deep. It's one of the things that I think really just creates such a level of toxicity in our industry that is just unnecessary. I want to kind of pivot and kind of hit on our first topic that we wanted to talk about tonight, which was really around the concept of API hacking, which is, you've got one of your new books coming out is about hacking APIs. You do you said so yourself, you're getting known as, just kind of the API hacking, queen that's out there.
People started calling me the fuzz queen. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I don't know. This sounds kind of offensive. Do I take this as a compliment?
Are you? Is that a good thing? Is that like furry fuzz or what?
Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I don't know. It sounds like a plant to me for some reason. But anyway, look at my new fuzz queen I just grew.
Look at that.
But yeah, no, APIs is definitely my jam.
It is, so let's level set, because one of the things we like to do is our community is vast. We have red teamers, we have blue teamers, we have GRC folks, we have everything in between, right? We have new people who have never been in cybersecurity, we have CISOs and CIOs, right? Can you just explain, like I'm 5 years old, what exactly is an API?
All right, I got an amazing answer for you. Are you all listening? Are you all sitting down? Because this is a big one. This is good. This is the best analogy in the world. Okay, an API is like a waiter at a restaurant. Okay, so so Neal and I decide to go to dinner. Neal and his wife and I all go to dinner, right? And my wife, all four of us, we're at a restaurant. All right, and the waiter approaches us and asks us what we would like to eat. We place our order with the waiter, and the waiter goes back into the kitchen and gives the chef, who doesn't speak English on top of it, and translates it to Spanish. And the chef then, let's say this chef is Hispanic. So translates the order to the chef.
It's obviously tacos. It's obviously tacos.
It's Taco Tuesday.
That's right.
And then the chef makes the food, and then the waiter brings the food back out to Neal, his wife, and my wife and I. Think of the waiter in this analogy as the API. The API is basically doesn't care who we are, what we have to order. All they're doing is taking our request and translating it to the kitchen in the back, having the chef produce that data or food and bring it back out to us, who are the requesting consumers of that food or data. So the back end is, of course, the back end of the API endpoints, and the waiter is the API. Another great analogy is an electrical socket in your home. The power company doesn't care what you plug up to it. The electrical socket is the API. The electrical company is the back end. You can plug your iPhone up to it or your hair dryer. The API is going to basically request that electricity from the back end and serve it to you. That's basically all an API is. Now, Neal, and your audience needs to understand, we are in an API first world. You may have blinked and all of a sudden we're here. Congratulations. If you are penetration testers, if you are red teamers, you need to develop your craft and know and learn how to hack APIs, because we have moved away from this age of monolithic applications where websites are one entire web app running on a web server. Those days are gone. We are now in an age of microservices and APIs where you go to like Amazon.com, the shopping cart is being pulled from one API endpoint, the list page of products is another API endpoint, your account page is another API endpoint. Companies are running not hundreds now, but thousands of API endpoints. And so you're getting scared off by JSON, and you just don't know if you need to make that jump into hacking APIs. I'm telling you right now, I said it here first on Neal's show.
That's right.
This is the future. This is where you need to be developing your craft.
I think we see this in practicum, right? Because if you go to HackerOne, if you go to BugCrowd, if you go to Synac, Cobalt.io, when you look at the vast majority, if not every single one of the bug bounties that are out there, they're all hacking against the APIs of those applications.
And it's so important because you guys and girls need to understand, your car is communicating with an API. It's not just mobile apps running on your phone. Everything is talking APIs. Our entire financial infrastructure is actually, the plumbing is APIs. Our entire healthcare system has been appified and is all talking to APIs. Everything is running on APIs now. So if you're scared off by and you don't know what an API is, you definitely need to be learning how to develop your craft and learn how to perform penetration testing against APIs.
I think that's key. Hopefully, all the aspiring red teamers heard that one out there right from the expert herself. Deborah Seuss says, so in this case, the chef is also a bartender and a pastry chef. Is there a level of partitioning?
Yeah, so good question. So basically, and that's one of the things I'm glad you brought partitioning up. Microservices, you should actually, every individual endpoint should actually have its own isolated database where data is being served out of. In my most recent healthcare research, where I hacked APIs giving me access to over 4 million patient records, the aggregator was not partitioning the data. It was throwing all of the data for all of the electronic health records into a single database that all the API endpoints talk to. And much to your point, there should be partitioning. You should have isolated databases of data instead of commingling all the data together. So I found a vulnerability in one app that they had developed, and it gave me access to be able to access the patient records of the other apps that they were developing for other healthcare providers because they were all in the same database. So yes, that's a great question. And yes, there should be a level of partitioning. There should be isolated databases for every microservice.
I think that's awesome. Awesome advice there. Sorry, did you want to push that one again, Carmen? I may have overwritten. I may have pressed the wrong button on them. See, this is why I don't touch things. There we go. Mr. White says, "Can I hack APIs with Python?"
So that's a good. What's interesting about APIs is they aren't as simple as, for example, throwing Metasploit and your auxiliary scanners at it, or throwing a Python script at it, or downloading something from ExploitDB. What's interesting about APIs, and I have several videos on this on hacking APIs on my YouTube channel, but it's very simple as this. You're learning how the API works by analyzing the traffic between the mobile app or the other API client, if it's a web-based or a mobile app. Once you learn how the API works, what sort of requests are being sent to the API, you're not really kind of hacking up a Python script, pun intended. You're actually just loading up an API client like Postman or Arc or Burp Suite, which can generate those requests to the API. A Postman is one of my favorite API clients. But you're basically just recreating that API request, and then you're changing and manipulating or mutating the fields. So, like, for example, if I'm hacking, in this particular case, the car maker, it was / and then the VIN number. But I found that because of a broken object level authorization vulnerability, or BOLA vulnerability, which I'll explain in a minute as well, but I could change that VIN number to a different VIN and to remotely control that other vehicle that didn't belong to me. So BOLA vulnerabilities is the most common vulnerability I find in APIs, Mr. White. As a matter of fact, so I'll give you an analogy. If Ryan's wife and I were at a cocktail party, and she walked in, she was sporting this amazing, expensive Burberry coat. I'm like, I want that coat. And I come, and she checks that into the coat check, and I see that she got the number 18. I come up behind her and I check in my cheap coat I bought at Target, which is not a bad thing. I mean, there's some great coats at Target. I'm just saying. But I want her Burberry coat. I get the number 17 and I leave, and I take a Sharpie and I change that 7 to an 8, and I go back to the coat check and give them that 18, and they give me her coat. So, I now go home with her coat, and no one is none the wiser. That's basically a BOLA vulnerability. I'm authenticated. I should be allowed to be there because I have a ticket from the coat check, but I'm not authorized to bring home her coat. So that's a great example of a BOLA vulnerability. And guess what? 100% of the APIs I've tested on the mHealth side, 100% of the APIs I tested on the vehicular testing side for vehicular mechatronics, all of that stuff, 100% of those APIs are vulnerable to BOLA. We as developers are authenticating requests, but we're not authorizing them. Meaning I'm authenticated, I'm allowed to be there, but I'm not authorized to be able to request that data.
But it goes
So that's a goal of vulnerability.
it goes back to some of the principles that we've dealt with on the networking side, right? Where we've got the hard outside, but the really soft GUI inside, where you're authenticating, against the application to make sure you belong to be there. But then once you're on the inside, any request you send is completely and totally authorized.
Exactly. And I would dare to say to actually flip that on its head and say, Neal, now we're in a different age. Before it was hard candy exterior, soft GUI interior. Now we're in a new age with APIs where we're repeating the sins of our fathers or repeating the sins of our past. And I'm seeing hard-coded usernames and passwords in the apps, hard-coded API keys and tokens, hard-coded AWS keys and tokens, where we're repeating the same vulnerabilities that I was seeing 20, 25 years ago, and are being repeated in APIs. And now APIs have made it the soft GUI exterior, soft GUI interior. Ugh, and so it's really interesting. Yeah.
Dichu, kind of following up on your Postman comment, says, what do you need besides Postman?
Just Postman. The neat thing about Postman, it is a freemium model. And also Arc API REST client, I think, is completely free. There's a lot of free API clients out there, but Postman is a great tool. If any of you connect with me on LinkedIn, Neal, I hope you don't get dropping my social media.
No. That's what the exclamation point guest is up there. We did just put your LinkedIn on there. We didn't put your Twitter on there or your YouTube. Cool. Well, I can have a mod drop that in chat.
Okay, cool. I just didn't want to. Some people are sensitive about that.
No.
If any of you go to my Medium blog, I have a Medium blog, and also if you go to my LinkedIn Pulse articles, I have a great article that actually walks you through how to do static and dynamic code analysis against mobile apps, iOS and Android mobile apps and APIs. And so I walk you through the different clients you can download and use. But to answer your question more directly, you do not need anything besides Postman. If you're going to do network traffic interdiction between the mobile app and the API endpoint, you do need like a woman, what I like to call woman in the middle attack tool or WIDM tool, where like you use something like Minim proxy. So I have an article that explains how to set up and install and run Minim proxy along with Postman. But the answer to your question is you don't really need anything else unless you're going to do traffic interdiction and analyze that traffic and decrypt it. And you're going to use something like Minim proxy.
I'll ask the mod team to kind of go and find those resources that Alissa talked about and drop those into chat so that you've got those as well.
Yeah, and Neal, one thing I can say is work smart, not hard. I used to use a combination of both Postman and Minim proxy. Now, more recently, I've actually switched to Burp Suite, where everything is all in one platform. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a phenomenal web application testing tool. It's not a vulnerability scanner, although it has a module. The modules for it, think of it kind of like a multi-layered onion, like layers of an onion as one single tool. So it has, like, for example, a proxy tab that will proxy traffic just like Minim proxy. And what's neat about it is if you're hitting something like an API that's got a web app client, you're probably like, Alissa, you only explained how to do this with a mobile app. What happens if it's a web app? Well, you can use Burp Suite, and there's a button in there that will load Chromium. And if you hit a web app with Chromium built into Burp Suite, it will send all of your HTTP packets to Burp Suite into the proxy tab and let you right-click and send those packets over to Repeater, where you can then manipulate those fields and send them on to their destination. So it's extremely powerful, and it's a single tool approach versus Postman and Minim proxy. You could just use one tool like Burp Suite. There is a free community edition of Burp Suite, so you don't need to pay for it. I have the commercial version just because I wanted to support PortSwigger, but you don't need to buy it. The community edition pretty much has everything you need.
On that same note, that's definitely one of those tools. Keep me honest on this one, Alissa, right? It absolutely can do it for free. Totally worth buying and supporting PortSwigger. And PortSwigger has got some amazing free training for you to learn how to use their tool as well. And for
great training.
For the question about the Python scripting, you can use Carbonator to automate a lot of the activities inside of Burp Suite, so you can still do the automation through Burp Suite through Carbonator.
Yeah, and for those of you earlier who are programmers in the audience or scripters, like, I have mad respect for you. Please don't be offended by what I said. It's not that I think, it's bad if you're a developer. I mean, if you, like, I would love to wake up, one day and say, oh, I need a tool that does this and just write it myself. So I have mad respect for you if you can do that. It's just that it's never been an attractive thing to me. I don't want to stare at lines of code all day. I'm an artist. I'd rather be in DaVinci Resolve editing a film or, doing something else. But seriously, like mad respect to all of you who can write code. It's just not my thing. And I'm just saying that people shouldn't be scared off from cybersecurity if you don't have any interest in becoming a developer either. This is why we have degrees in cybersecurity, why you can get a PhD in cybersecurity. Before, the only option was a degree in computer science, and you had to learn programming, even though you didn't want to. But they're not mutually exclusive, right? So I mean, you can be in cybersecurity and not be a programmer.
I've oftentimes said that hackers actually make the worst programmers. They just don't have that programming mindset, like to your point, staring at lines of code, doing all the right comments, formatting things the right way. Like hackers make the worst programmers.
I agree.
Mr. White comes back with a follow-on. Looks like it says, can I create my own root API and then try to hack the info in the back end?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go into like AWS or something, or Azure, or and grab an API gateway and build APIs and deploy them, and then set up all that infrastructure, like if that's your thing and that tickles your pickle, then do that.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. There's purposely vulnerable API distros that you guys can. That's what I love. We live in a very exciting time right now. And, back 25 years ago when I started hacking at the time of BBSs and dial-up scene, we didn't have purposely vulnerable distros. If you wanted to hack something that you couldn't afford or didn't have in your home network, we had no VMware. We had none of this. You hacked a network to be able to go play with it. And so you can go download a purposely vulnerable API. There's two that I'm aware of. One is called Juice Shop. So if you go grab Juice Shop, that's a great purposely vulnerable API that you can hack around on, Mr. White. And also there's another one called Tiredful API. And that will let you flex your muscles on like the OWASP API security top 10. So if you guys want to drop the link in chat or something, but just Google it.
I think they got that one down. I want to kind of go back over to what you had talked about when you talked about the developers a little bit, right? And I've got kind of two kind of quotes that are two kind of statistics that I want to throw out there, right? And you kind of hit on a little bit, right? Is that we live in a very API-centric world now versus where we did years and years ago. There was a recent Akana DevOps API survey that was out, and I want to kind of tell this to the audience really quick, that found that 45% of the respondents to this survey were confident that their security professionals, knew that some malicious actor had accessed APIs, and on top of that, 51% were confident that their security professionals were not completely aware of all the new APIs that existed in the infrastructure. Can you just kind of give us some history on how we got to a point where developers did not know all of the APIs that they were running on their infrastructure these days?
Yeah, so something that I don't talk very publicly about, or haven't at least until recently, is I am also a CISO. I'm a CISO for a bank, ironically enough. I can tell you it's very easy for that to happen, because if you think about it, some of the companies that are out there that I've run into run over 6,000 APIs. What's happening is, as a developer, you can go in there and actually build an API to talk to something that talks to something, and you could have a whole chain of APIs. You can have APIs that talk to APIs. You can have apps that talk to APIs. It creates this huge chain, and it's really easy to actually spin up and push out a new API with API gateways, API management gateways. And so it's really easy for that to get out of hand, and you get into this thing where what we like to call is shadow APIs. So it's a shadow API problem, where you just have developers and development teams that are just spawning all these different APIs that do these different things, and people no longer have any documentation or understand what they do. For example, Uber, it became very well known very quickly that they had a real shadow API problem where there were thousands of APIs. The people that developed them don't work for the company anymore. They were a very critical part of Uber's infrastructure. They didn't know what could be shut down and what couldn't. There's no documentation on them. Where it could swagger files or contracts for what those APIs could support and do. And it's really easy for something like that to happen because you've got developers that are constantly kicking out APIs to do a specific function or task, and a lot of times they don't stop to document it or explain what it is, or it's a real problem.
But Alissa, software development lifecycle means that we should document all of our APIs and everything else. I mean, I thought that this would have solved this problem.
In a perfect world, that's amazing. No, it is. It's like there's. That's why I think there will always be a business for us. It's job security for us, right? I mean, that we will forever be in a world where developers are not perfect, and there is no such thing as perfect code, and there is no such thing as everyone always following a proper SDLC and shifting security left and shielding right, and all these other things that we should be doing. It keeps us employed, right? But the thing is that. I think what's worse in what I'm seeing out there is for the blue team members in your audience that are in charge of defending against adversaries, one of the things that I'm finding is a lot of them will go to what they know, right? So if I know that an API speaks the HTTP protocol, what's the first thing as a defender your mind goes to for a security control to protect that API? It's a web application firewall. It's a WAF. Right, you go to where your brain goes first, and so a lot of the APIs that I've been compromising and breaching were protected by web application firewalls, and the problem is that web application firewalls to me are very. Hopefully, you don't have any WAF sponsors, but if not, shut me up right now.
No, you're good. You're good.
My opinion, my 2 cents, my opinion, Alissa Knight's opinion is that they're very legacy because to me it reminds me of the Snort IDS days where we were using signatures to detect tools and exploits based on patterns in their payload. With web application firewalls, you're looking for patterns. You're looking for things like SQL injection and things in the payload. But if you have a WAF in front of your API and I'm authenticated and your WAF can see that I have a legitimate token and I should be talking to the API, it's not going to know that I'm requesting data that doesn't belong to me. How is it going to know that? It has no application context. So a lot of organizations are using WAFs to secure their APIs. And what they don't understand is they're looking for rules-based, malicious fingerprints or malicious payloads. It's not looking for logic-based attacks that are going to be exploiting logic, like broken object level authorization or broken authentication vulnerabilities. A WAF isn't going to be able to detect something like that.
I think you make a lot of really valid points, right? Because we've failed for years anyway on the WAF side anyway, looking for signature based, and as people have gotten more advanced in terms of obfuscation and manipulation of the URI strings to get past WAFs, we haven't adopted any of those learning practices to our API side. To your point again, you're already authenticated on the API side, so what's it there to detect?
And Neal, when was the last time that you heard a company come out of stealth mode that's a WAF?
Right.
We are completely disrupting security with our brand new WAF solution. It's just like DLP. Like, when was the last time you heard anything come out of DLP? There really is no innovation in this area or even acquisitions in this area because it's just really very legacy at this point, And what we should be doing for you and the audience are like, okay, how do I protect against an Alissa Knight? You need to be using management solutions, and there's several that are out there, and some of them have a different approach to API security. I just recently presented to the analyst at Gartner on the state of the API security market. It's a very nascent industry, and the API security vendors are still trying to figure it out. They're still trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and there's so many different approaches to it, and architectures. So it's a very nascent challenge. And a very nascent solution area.
let's take it a step back for a second, right? Because I think you hit the nail on the head. You talked about being a CISO and being that kind of one of the unspoken things that you've got going on in your life right now. We still need to have conversations in security architecture with the development team, with the DevOps team that talks about secure coding practices. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. And I think another huge problem is that I run into a lot of companies, like, for example, like those 30 banks that I hacked. I actually reached out to some of the developers and talked to them about this. And one of the things that I'm learning in these organizations is they'll spend the money to get the security awareness training that's required of PCI or ISO 27001, basic security awareness training for all employees, but they're not budgeting to be able to send their developers to secure code training. And it's, I think it's a very ubiquitous problem, and it's across the industry, different industries. If a company is writing code, if they're producing code, they need to be sending their developers to secure code training. And I think a lot of this security will begin to shift left. But right now, it's basic security awareness training like anti-phishing training, and the developers need more than that.
I that's something that I've seen as well, right? We teach them how to code, but we don't teach them how to code securely. It's not based into their here. Let's program Python, and then here's how you program Python securely.
It's a real problem, and it's the reason why we're seeing what we're seeing out there. Like I've met many developers that were like, Alissa, that Android app was on your Android phone. How did you browse the directory structure of that app and find my private keys? Like, dude, like, you don't know you can extract APK files off of an Android device?
Yeah.
What world are you from?
Yeah.
Like, where you've been hiding under a rock? Is it like it's very basic things, like things that developers should know. Like, what do you mean you reverse the code back to the source code and then saw the hard-coded keys and tokens? Like, why am I explaining this to you? How am I explaining this to you that this is
because we don't encourage developers to go through offensive security training. We tell them that they just need to know how to code instead of knowing how to break stuff. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one of my favorite Sun Tzu quotes is, don't bet on the enemy not coming. Bet on the enemy coming and making our position unassailable. The enemy is going to come. What we need to understand is that we need to shift security left, right, more hard-end code, because the attacker will eventually get their hands on our mobile app. They will eventually get their hands on something that will find the flaws that we baked into that code. So we need to do better from the beginning.
Speaking of doing better from the beginning, I do want to talk about a key concept on that secure. We do have a problem now. We don't teach coders how to do secure coding. Let's talk about what we do try to teach coders to do now, which is static analysis and dynamic analysis. Can you talk a little bit about, can you explain the difference between static and dynamic analysis? And if you were speaking to a CISO right now, what would be the 3 best practices for implementing SaaS and DaaS programs in their organizations?
Yeah, so great question. So I know it can be confusing, but SaaS or static code analysis is basically taking the object code and actually trying or attempting to reverse engineer it back to original source code. And one of the things that you need to understand is that APK files, especially mobile apps, right? It's very easy to decompile it or reverse it back to the original source code. It's not like a .exe file, right? So that's static code analysis. You're basically combing the source code, looking for flaws in the code, or looking for things that the developer may have hard-coded in that code, like keys and tokens. And in many cases, Neal, believe it or not, even developers I'm seeing are actually hard-coding usernames and passwords. And a lot of times it's not even their own APIs. It's in the static code analysis, finding keys and tokens for third-party APIs like payment processors that are being hard-coded in that code. Dynamic analysis or dynamic code analysis or DaaS, what that is you're actually executing the app and you're looking at runtime issues. You're also doing what's called network traffic interdiction. You're looking at the traffic. You're basically analyzing everything as the app is running. And so from the very beginning, I've always been a big packet monkey. I love staring at packets. And over the arc of my career, started out on the blue team doing log forensics, log analysis, back in the snort days, shadow days of just looking at TCP dump files and PCAPs, all the way to forensics and incident response and then penetration testing. And so I feel at home when I'm looking at packet payloads and packet headers. But that's basically what it is when I'm doing dynamic analysis of a mobile app, I'm running it, I'm executing it, I'm using it, and I'm looking at the stimulus and response. So if I'm using this particular healthcare app, for example, I'm recording that traffic, and I'm seeing what the API is expecting. Here's a really interesting find. One of the findings in the upcoming report that's going to be dropping in a few days. I'm going to drop a bombshell here on the show. You heard it here first.
Oh, heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Oh, it's big. Yeah. This is 0 day. This is 0 day. Ready?
Cyber secrets, everybody. Cyber secrets. Gotcha.
Yeah, you got it. It took a minute, but I got that one. But so in that fire report, I'm going to be dropping one of the fire APIs. When I logged in, was just sending a whole bunch of patient records back to me.
Like as soon as you logged in, it would just send it right back to you. Wow.
It was sending me all the data in its patient database. Excuse me.
No, you're good.
So then what was happening was I found that I guess the developer didn't realize that you could actually send that same API request with the normal API client, and they were relying on the app to filter out the results for just my patient records. So I would log in, and it would send everything from the system, and it was in the app based on who I was logged in as would filter out all the other patients and only show me mine. Huge no-no.
Yeah.
Obviously. Because at that point, you don't even really need to hack. You don't really even need to hack anything with the backend. You're just logging in and you're looking at all the data that was just sent to you. And like I said, I mean, in this exercise, it was over 4 million records. Because a lot of these aggregators are actually pulling in data from over 10,000, 20,000 hospitals across the United States. And they're aggregating it into a single data lake. And instead of you going to like 10,000, 20,000 hospitals to get your data and pull it, these aggregators are pulling it for you, and you only have to go to one.
That's okay. Go for it. I can stall for a little bit while you drink a little bit on that one. I've seen some of what you're talking about as well, and one of the things that I think comes into play, right, is because what happens is you get these organizations, you get these CISOs, you get these compliance folks who are like, oh, well, we need to do a penetration test on the application, and so they fall into that traditional mindset which says, let's scope out an application. Is it authenticated? Is it not authenticated? How many web pages in it? How many dynamic call entries are there? Let's do just a typical general run-of-the-mill web application pen test, and they don't source their vendor or their third party to actually say, we need you to actually also test the API or add that into the scope as well. Would you have a tendency to agree that we're still failing on that pen testing conversation to understand what we need to scope for that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to answer your question a different way.
Go for it.
And this might shock some people. Sorry. I got a piece of date, I think, stuck in the wrong tube. Sorry about that, everybody. That's what I get for drinking a date shake on a call. But I'm going to answer that differently. I actually, and you may find this shocking to hear from a hacker, but I think we are creating a huge blind spot by jumping straight into a penetration test without first doing a risk assessment. I find so much, and a lot of you like jaw drop, like you could probably hear a pin drop in your audience right now, but it's because so many people think that hackers just want to be in an interpreter shell and hack, right? Buffer overflow this or buffer overflow that or whatever. But here's why I believe that. It's because, a lot of the times you can't hack what you don't know is there. And so with risk assessment on the blue team and on the red team side, you need to know what your more critical assets are. You need to know where the crown jewels are, because at the end of the day, the adversary is only looking for the crown jewels, right? 25 years ago, it was world of hell and website defacements on a mass scale. How can I get added to the all does defacement mirror? How do I, it was defacements. Now it's hacking for profit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just profiting once, but double dipping. So lock and leak. Yeah, I'm going to ransom you after I encrypt your data, but I'm also going to leak it and I'm going to sell it on the dark web.
Yeah.
So it's double dipping, or fencing using mules. But one of the things that I can say is that a lot of the times in penetration testing and previous hacks that I've done, a lot of the assets were assets that the CISO didn't know was still out there. It was that accidental compromise. That wasn't part of our patch management program. Penetration testing is very effective, and I think we need to definitely be doing more of it. I think it definitely needs to be done more throughout the software development lifecycle from beginning to end. And I definitely think it needs to include both SAST and DAST, because that seems to be a forgotten art as well as the forgotten art of...
Uh-oh.
Fuzz. You're asking about that as well.
I think we may have crashed your internet, Alissa. Uh-oh. Oh.
Neal,
Alissa, oh, got you. There you are. You're back. Woo!
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay.
You're back. You're good
I'm
now.
so sorry.
No,
Okay,
you're
cool.
good.
I'm so sorry.
You're
Sorry,
good.
everyone. So yeah, I am not at home today in my recording studio. I am in Palm Springs, so I apologize to all of you if my internet is choppy. But basically, and I can talk more about fuzzing more and what that is and how to interpret those results. But risk assessments are so important because you need to know what your high value assets are, your high risk assets. What is it that you're trying to protect? Right, you can know the idea of the castle protected by the moat is gone. Those days are gone, right? The castle has left the moat.
Yeah.
Data is everywhere. It's in the cloud. It's on people's mobile devices. Now it's in this new work from home economy where you've got all these employees who are working from home, and so your data, your crown jewels, is going everywhere. You need to protect. You need to know. You need to protect where that data is and go out to where that data is and protect it there. So I think, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, I think that's an important part, and actually, you probably didn't hear a pin drop. You probably heard all the GRC folks that we have on the call really start to yell and cheer and be like, "Yay, she gets us, she understands it."
27,000.
That's right. It is.
Well, and I love doing risk assessments.
Yeah.
I absolutely do, because you go through that process of creating the asset register. You go through the process of defining what are the unacceptable risks to the business. Because Neal, you and I both know a company is not going to fix every vulnerability.
No.
They're not going to remediate every threat. They're only going to reduce the likelihood, right? You're basically treating only the risks that are unacceptable to the business.
That's right.
You are not treating every risk. And so in order to be able to perform effective penetration testing and go after those high value assets and know kind of where those crown jewels are is the results of a risk assessment, right? So, I do believe in black box pen testing. So for those of you trolls, put your guns down. I do believe that black box pen testing is important and there's a place for it. But, if you have the purview over, asset registers and risk assessments and risk treatment plans, then being able to combine a pen test with a risk assessment is so much more effective.
But let's double down on that for a second, because that's something that obviously I preach that on stream quite a lot, and I'm sure people are sick and tired of hearing it from me. And so hearing it from an expert like yourself is another thing. I want you to say that again for people in the back. Companies aren't going to patch every vulnerability. They're not going to remediate every threat that's out there.
Correct. And I've done over 100 penetration tests in my career over the last 20 years. And I have been in boardrooms where I sat there across from the C-suite where they were deer in headlights and I was deer in headlights and didn't understand why they weren't going to remediate all my high risk findings because they didn't consider it to be above a business accepted risk. It's even if you had a blank check, there's still going to be vulnerabilities that they're not going to remediate, right? So it's there. You just have to. That's the world we live in, and you need to understand that as ethical hackers, as penetration testers. That don't be offended. It's not some sort of ding on you. It has nothing to do with you. It's what is the business? What is the business determining that it's going to fix. For example, a long time ago, many moons ago, I actually headed up the red team for a telco called SBC Datacom, which eventually became AT&T. And one of our clients at the time, many of you probably don't remember who they are, or probably do, are old enough to remember, but Egghead. It used to be a software company and became a software store, computer store that you could walk in and buy software at. Yeah, computer store. And then it became a website. They actually, we found this huge exploitable vulnerability giving access to credit cards in their system. And they decided for one reason or another that it would break too many applications if they fixed it. So they left it there with the intent that, hey, look, we don't believe that this is going to be something that's going to be easy to find. It's going to break too many things for us to fix it. And everyone knows probably what happened after that. They were actually compromised and they ended up going bankrupt. So, it does happen, and you just need to understand that they're just not going to fix everything. It's not something a business is going to do. And
you have to be okay with it. You have to be okay with that. There's nothing you can do about it.
You have to be okay with it. I eventually in my career, when I first started out, I didn't comprehend that. It didn't compute with me.
Yeah.
Like, here are all your vulnerabilities, fix them. Why aren't you fixing them? And I had to learn to just kind of step back, put my guns down. All of you, I want you to all repeat after me. It took me a long time to learn this. We are nothing more than risk communicators. That's all you
communicators. The key word there is communicator.
You are a risk communicator. You are not anything more than that to the business. Your job is to do nothing but to communicate risk. It's not about, but you don't understand. I wrote this zero-day exploit to exploit this. This is like really elite stuff, and I had to write a Ruby exploit. Do we use elite anymore? Anyway, I created the Ruby module for this for Metasploit. I wrote At the end of the day, the business doesn't care about your Ruby exploit. The business doesn't care that you wrote that in Python in order to exploit it. At the end of the day, what is above a business accepted risk?
Yeah.
And that is what they will consider to be important.
So I want to remind all y'all that made fun of me when I did my Purple Team video where I said that same thing. You heard it from her, and she's super elite sauce. So it's a shared opinion. It's a shared opinion.
Yeah, it is a thing.
It is a thing. I want to switch on you real quick, Alissa. I appreciate you talking to us about API stuff. I want to move over to the car hacking stuff, which I know always gets people going when we talk about the car hacking stuff. How long have you been doing car hacking, and how did you get into it?
Man, this is a really interesting topic. Okay, so for those of you who have not yet, go out to Amazon and grab the book, Hacking Connected Cars, Tactics, Techniques, and Procedures. And it's really, I would like to think, really the Bible for performing penetration testing against connected cars. Now, it is true that I can't throw a rock and just hit any penetration tester that just because they know how to hack an IIS web server and Apache web server, that they know how to hack embedded systems like telematics control units or electronic control units, or can even understand what vehicular mechatronics is. The thing about it is that with connected car hacking, it is way more difficult. Number one, because you're dealing with a completely different system. Cars are now nothing more than just computer networks on wheels. That's exactly what they are. They have more lines of code than the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter in a car. So with that being said, I got into car hacking back in 2010, 2011. It was actually, believe it or not, the result of a contract from a client. I ended up actually going out to Stuttgart, Germany. I ended up staying in the country and moving there and shipping everything over the Atlantic Ocean to myself, and lived in Germany and hacking connected cars. So I was very fortunate in the fact that I pretty much had my hand held into connected car hacking. One of the things that's also difficult is all of you can go out there and download a purposely vulnerable distro, but how many of you can go out and download a Telemax control unit for a Ford 2021, Explorer? You can't, right? If you do, it's got to be in your own car. Mm-hmm. Or you can go buy one maybe on eBay, but finding a telematics control unit, knowing what to do with it and how it works. It's really hard. I was blessed. I mean, just looking back, I was very blessed to have been given that opportunity, because the client wanted somebody that was a hacker that really knew very little about vehicular mechatronics, and lock them in a room in Germany and just teach them everything they needed to know on the car side. And that's exactly what happened to me, and that actually became my book. And so I got a deep dive into telematics control units and what TCUs are. They're basically the modem or the router for your car. It's where your SIM chip is for your car. And then actually tracing and following every cable in that car and learning everything about in-vehicle networking, vehicle to vehicle, like V2V, V2X, all of those things in the work that I was doing. So I pretty much, like many of you have probably done in the past, learned while on the job, learned while doing it. And, I met some amazing people along the way that are friends to this day, like a crazy Danish hacker and some other folks like Solomon Burke, the Solomon Thuo. So, a lot of great friends and people along the way that really mentored me through it, and eventually wrote the book on it. And so, a lot of people think, a lot of you are like, yeah, I'm not smart enough to do that. Or, gosh, those hackers must just come out of the womb knowing how to hack a connected car. When I walked into hacking APIs, I didn't even know how to spell API. I didn't know what the hell an API was. I'm like, what's an API? The heck is an API? Appy? I was like, what's an appy? I had to learn, like many of you. And that's why it's so frustrating to me when somebody reaches out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter and says, hey, Alyssa, teach me how to hack. You have an open door policy. Reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to teach a fisherman how to fish. But don't ask me to teach you how to hack, because how would I even do that? How would I take 21 years in a LinkedIn message and explain that to you and decompose it in a message that will resonate? And also, if you go out and learn yourself, like I had to do, and learn on your own, you will actually learn more than me. There's kids, Neal, there's high schools that are teaching Cisco certification courses. You can come out of high school with a CCNA. Yeah. Like, we live in a very exciting time, and information and data is around us everywhere. That's why I think it's not that we need more of that data. It's not like we need more of it. We need to be better at managing our time so we can spend the time to read it and do it. It's like everybody wants everything in the size of a tweet. Hey, listen, teach me how to hack from your 21 years of experience in the size of a tweet. It's not going to happen.
It's funny you mentioned that about being given the opportunity to learn on the job, by going to Stuttgart. I think that's critically important, especially as we get a lot of this newer technology that kind of comes through. I want to kind of bring just a tad bit of that real conversation for a second into this and put you a little bit on the hot seat. Upstream reported that in 2019, there were only about 150, incidents, as they called them, in terms of potential, interconnected vehicle, cybersecurity incidents, that were out there in the world, with millions and millions and millions of vehicles that are on the road. If there's only been 150 incidents, why is this such a big concern?
I think for me, it's the fact that in the area of cybersecurity, it's really the only attack surface where you can have a cyber attack affect life and safety. Like
more so than the hospitals.
Well, okay, so good point. And now we've had the second death attributed in a hospital to ransomware. I did see that story, but that aside, it's one of the only areas, right? So after 21 years, I got to a point where it was like, okay, I'm kind of over the whole protecting the corporate network. I'm kind of over it. That was like, to me, recess, right? Yeah. What I care about is not the person who wants to, steal our trade secrets. I care about the attacker that wants to go after my car that I'm driving around with my family in it. That's what, that's my why. And there's nothing wrong if you want to protect corporate cybersecurity. More power to you. That's amazing. We need more of you. What what really kind of tickles my pickle and really gets me going is embedded system security APIs. And I like to, if you look at my content, for those of you who do follow me, one of the things that you'll find is that a lot of my content is not Me Too content, meaning that it's stuff that people don't really talk about, like building a rogue base station and taking remote control of a car by turning your laptop into a fake cell tower. Those kind of things, like the sort of just very arcane, just information data that very few people understand, because I've always felt like I have this ability to take really labyrinthine, really just confusing and hard to understand stuff and turn it into and explain it in a way that anyone can understand it.
Yeah.
And so if you, like, one of the things over the last 21 years that I found was I hated it when I finally found that article on how to do something and how to, and then only to find out that it's the only article really out there on it, and it was very poorly written. So what you'll find is I'm very, I almost over elaborate in my art, in my blogs and in my videos, where I'm really just explaining to any skill level how you do something. And that's really important to me, because, it's really easy for an advanced person, who can write a buffer overflow in their sleep to skip past certain parts of a video or skip past parts of an article, than is for the beginner out there who may not even know what a buffer overflow is, or what an API is. So anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
No, it's good, because we really talk about like what the why is in terms of choosing what your passion is and how you go about doing that. I think people have a tendency to forget that when they're trying to choose their path, right? They're like, oh, I want to be an exploiter. Or they see Mr. Robot and they're like, that's what I want to do, or that's what life is for me. And so I think that people get lost in, why is this important? Well, this is important because it means something to you personally to be successful.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you said that, Neal. And if you'll allow me a moment to expound on that, you ever notice that, like, when you get something from someone, you can almost kind of tell that they didn't enjoy doing it while they did it.
Yeah.
Like okay, let's take it back to something even more simple than cybersecurity. You've got, I have a 17-year-old kid. He's about to turn 18. Yeah, I'm that old. And you know how, like, kids, like, if they don't want to clean the kitchen, they'll do the dishes, but there'll be sticky jelly all over the counter, and they won't sweep them up. They'll just do the dishes, and that's cleaning the kitchen to them. That's because they didn't enjoy cleaning the kitchen. They didn't want to give 200% to it and make sure that they produced a quality outcome.
Yeah.
To me, it's the same thing with regular work, right? Like with work deliverables. You can tell when someone didn't enjoy doing something. And I think, and I'm really glad that you hit on that point, because it needs to be your fire. It needs to be your passion. You've worked in this industry long enough, and many of you in the audience, I'm talking to you, have worked in this industry long enough to know that it's not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have, number one, a willingness to sleep in a hotel room for a week or longer because of an incident response engagement, code red worm.
Yeah.
And, and very forgiving family, very forgiving spouses and partners, very forgiving children, because it is not a job, everyone. And I will repeat myself here. It is not a job. It is a lifestyle. Cybersecurity is not a job. It is a lifestyle. And God bless our family members who put up with it and really help to make sure that everything else in our lives stay running while we focus heads down on an incident or, anything else that you may be dealing with. But, just to round out your point, you have to be passionate about it. It needs to light your fire, because if you don't, you will be able to tell in that pen test report whether or not you enjoyed writing it.
Yeah.
You will be able to tell whether or not in that video or in that whatever you're working on that you didn't enjoy it, just like that 17-year-old kid cleaning the kitchen. If you did not enjoy writing it or doing it, it will show in the quality of your work.
100%, 100%. I want to get your hot take on something really fast, and then we'll move it over to the Q&A. Can you walk us through? I know that people can read your book, and hopefully one of the mods is grabbing a link to your book right now and dropping that into chat for everybody too. Can you walk just through like what a typical car hack, or what you have found through your research and your studies, what a typical car hack looks like?
Sure, Neal. I'm going to start my answer out with actually a quote. I quote movies a lot, which is either going to annoy the hell out of you or you're going to laugh and find it funny. But basically, for me, so there was this movie that George Clooney was in called Peacemaker quite some time ago. Said
Nicole Kidman was in that one too.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
It's one of those greats. And George Clooney was in a heated discussion with the other protagonist in the movie, and he said, I don't care about the terrorist that wants 5 nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I care about the terrorist that only wants 1.
That's right.
Right. So for me, in car hacking, I don't care about the attacker that needs to break the window and get into the car to be able to access the OBD2 port underneath the steering column. I care about the attacker that can hack my car from the convenience of their living room and drive my car with my family into oncoming traffic. So that's the segue into my answer to your question.
Yeah.
When I'm performing a car penetration test, I focus on the remote communication capabilities of the car, the ingress point into being able to take remote control of the car. Within proximity of that vehicle, it's going to be Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Now, many of the vehicles that are out there have a telematics control unit and an infotainment system. Those are really the, let's call them the castles protected by the moat, is the TCU and the infotainment system. That's usually your ingress point. And so that TCU will typically connect to the infotainment system so it can communicate with it over Wi-Fi. And usually it's a hidden wireless network. So the wireless access point is the infotainment system, and the infotainment system is that really beautiful dash like screen on your dashboard, and you control the car with it by pushing all the buttons. And so the TCU is basically like the SIM chip. It's the SIM chip. There's literally a SIM chip in your car, like a cell phone. And that's your router to your car. The automakers communicate with your car over that TCU connection. So it's over that GSM connection. So instead of you taking your car in to be patched and them having to deal with recalls, they can actually remotely patch your car without you knowing it over that TCU, through that TCU over that GSM connection. So when I go through my methodology for hacking a car, my kill chain is first to look at Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Once I've exhausted that, I'm going to attempt to get within a certain proximity of the car and use a rogue base station to have the car associate to my laptop, which it thinks is a legitimate cell tower, disable encryption, and be able to see all the packets going between the car and the back end system. Now, there are several devices you can buy to perform that, and that's what's called a software-defined radio. Now, there's several SDRs on the market. The thing you care about in this point is the frequency that it supports. So with the frequency, the best, I believe the best out there is what's called the Blade RF from a company called Nuance. And so that actually now can support, I want to say up to like 6 or 7 gigahertz.
Yeah.
So you know how we have like 5G now. So it supports 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G. And so you can basically mimic or recreate a legitimate 5G cell tower with the Blade RF in your laptop running a software application called Yate BTS. And so yet another telephony equipment, I think is what Yate stands for. But basically you can create a fake cell tower. Now, the way cell towers work is that if Neal and I were in a room and I fired up Yate BTS with this Blade RF, which is called the rogue base station, every cell phone in the room would automatically associate to that rogue base station because it's projecting a stronger signal than the legitimate cell tower a block away or a few blocks away. So it's going to automatically connect to it. Now, if you own the network infrastructure, the fabric of the network that all these devices are connected to, you own the devices, right?
Yeah.
If you own the network, you own the devices, right? So just like in a Windows domain, if you have domain admin, you own the network, you own the devices. So that's the next thing. And then there's also, in addition to hacking them through a Rogue BTS, now the big thing, the big squishy, soft GUI exterior is APIs, because every single one of the cars on the road, and for those of you who think I'm impervious to being hacked because I'm not driving around in a Tesla, you are dead wrong. Any car made after 2001 is connected. So, and it, obviously, and I think I can talk a little bit more about this now. As a matter of fact, the report's dropping soon. So my big law enforcement vehicle hack that you can find 2 videos on my YouTube channel about, that's every Ford on the road. It's not just law enforcement vehicles. It affects every Ford on the road. So being able to remotely lock and unlock the doors and be able to remotely start and stop the engine. Now, that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter if you're driving around in a Hyundai, a Daewoo, or whatever the heck you're driving. You can, it's communicating with an API. You don't have to be in a Tesla Y in order to have an attack surface on wheels that you're driving around in with your family.
I think that's a critical point. I want to cover down on just a couple of things for the audience who's listening. The use of Yate and the Blade RF and things like that. That's not a new concept. It was DEF CON. I think it was 15, 16, or 17. I can't remember, one of the three of those.
It's been around for a while, yeah.
Yeah. They actually came into DEF CON one year and did that on the old GSM network. During that, it's actually illegal for those who are wondering, like, oh, they're going to run out and do this tomorrow. That's actually illegal for you to stand up and do that. Yeah. The FCC, if they catch you, will come down and hit you with some pretty hefty fines to do that one. It's also what we used in.
You need to use a Faraday. You need to use a Faraday cage.
Yeah.
If you're going to be screwing around with rogue base stations and interrupting cell networks, it's illegal. If they catch you, you can get arrested and go to prison for it. You need to use what's called a Faraday cage to make sure you're not disrupting the legitimate cell networks when you're doing something like that.
Yeah, that one's high risk. That's not an at-home project for y'all that are out there thinking about that one. It is also for those who are interested, and Alissa, you know this from your time as well, working with the intelligence agencies. It's also how we used to disrupt DTMF signals for bombers in Iraq as we drive around with these giant cell towers on top of our Humvees to do that.
Yeah, and in Homeland Security and DoD, it's referred to as dirt boxes. We also have aerial dirt boxes now, where these things will actually be flying over the highways and they'll pick up cell phones with
you tinfoil hat wearers will refer to them as stingrays.
Stingrays, yeah.
All right, Alissa, that is it for my questions. I appreciate you taking the time to allow me to ask you questions. I'm going to ask my mods to start pushing questions from our audience that has been kind of aggregating over, and we'll kind of see what they can hit you with here in a little bit. So
awesome.
Oops. I just made that one go away. Let's make that one come back. There we go, from BSec. Question from the security side. What would be the best way to monitor the APIs your developers are spawning? Any specific services or software?
Yeah, so you can't protect what you don't know you have. My advice is that you guys get an API threat management solution. There's several great companies out there. Can I mention company names?
Absolutely. Go for it. Have at it.
Okay. So full transparency, these are clients of mine that I create content for, but No Name Security is one. They are a passive solution, not inline. And one of the things that companies like No Name Security or, any one of the others out there, Salt Security, 42 Crunch, a big thing is creating an asset inventory of your APIs. And one of the things that you want to look for is not only just a solution that can identify your shadow APIs. A lot of them will actually pull the API data from your API management gateway, like your Apogees of the world or MuleSoft. What you want to do is find an API threat management solution that can find shadow APIs that haven't talked to their API gateway and are just sitting there dormant or sitting there in the environment. You want to see if the API threat management solution can support something like that. It depends on the application they use. If they're mobile APIs, you have companies like Approve where you can actually compile an SDK with the mobile app, and it will sit in front of the API and it won't allow you to talk to that API unless it comes from that legitimate mobile app that generated the API request. So it prevents things like synthetic traffic. But yeah, to more specifically answer your question, you really want to find an API threat management solution. Don't rely on your API gateway to tell you that information. You want something that's continuously updating its asset register of shadow APIs in your environment that are being spawned. And the neat thing about a lot of these API threat management solutions as well is they'll tell you what kind of data they're serving. So with No Name, it will actually tell you, for example, that API is serving PII or that API is serving PCI. It'll actually tell you if it's serving regulated data or not. So definitely, if you have APIs in your environment, do not secure them with a WAF. It's a bad idea. Bad idea. And a lot of research will be dropping here by me soon that will prove that. But, you want to look at the different API security vendors that are out there. Like Traceable, for example, is another one where they actually inject into the backend app and do what's called distributed tracing. And it gives you even more granular application awareness of what's happening in the backend. It depends on APIs. Not every API is created equal. It depends on the APIs in your environment, what they're being used for, as far as what API threat management solution you should evaluate and look at. But, create a functional requirements document. There's a video on my YouTube channel called State of the API Security Market, API Buyer's Guide 2022. And I walk you through the functional requirements that you should have for an API security solution. So take a look at that video. It'll help you if any of you are in the market for buying one.
Functional requirements documents. That's another one of those administrative things that a lot of you technical folks out there are going to be like, no, yeah,
no FRDs,
no FRDs.
Like, so many of us just go straight to just getting the budget approval and just wanting to buy the coolest sounding thing, or whoever will give us the best swag. But it's you really need to create your requirements before you look at the products. What do you need from the product or the technology before you go out there and look at solutions? Like, know why you're buying it. Not just because it has machine learning.
Yeah, don't be a technologist, right? It's people, process, and technology, and there's a reason why technology is the third thing in the list.
Exactly.
Fasochi Actual, our resident question dictionary comes through and says, question for Alissa, with what you know now, what would you do different?
Oh, man. That's a good question. That's deep.
Yeah. You'd always expect something deep like that from Fasochi.
I need more alcohol. I need like happy hour time for a glass of wine to answer that question. What would I do differently? Jeez. The pressure of what I would do differently. Goodness.
It's either nothing or you've got so many that you're like, God, which one do I pick?
It's hard to pick one because I believe that life is nothing more than a string of decisions and outcomes. That's all life is. People are like, what's the secret of life? What's the secret of life? It's life is nothing more than just decisions and outcomes, and you either paying the price for that decision or reaping the benefits of that decision. But sure, I've made some mistakes, and if I could do it all over again, I would. I think the biggest one would probably be hacking that network at 17. Just for me, I was very lucky. The arrest was botched, and the district attorney wouldn't touch it because of the way the arrest was handled. So I was very lucky in that regard. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't have done that. I would have found a different way. But you know what? I also believe it's really it's a difficult question because I also believe that things happen in life for a reason, and it's kind of like those old choose your own mystery books. Yeah. Right. If you decide to go through the door, skip to chapter 7. Yeah. It's all just decisions, and I do believe that I am where I am today because of all of those decisions along the way. How would our lives, be different if we went back and changed things? Would I even still have my son? Yeah. Would I still be sitting here talking to all of you today? Yeah. I don't know. But for sure, I have some regrets, and I would do things differently if I did. If I could, but I'm happy with my life. I'm happy with where I am today, and everything along the way has made who I am.
I love that perspective too, because that's one of the things I oftentimes share as well, right? It's like I would be so afraid to change anything about my past because I wouldn't want to change today at all, right? Like I'm so scared of that.
I mean, it's, and okay, I'm gonna get personal on you.
Go
All
for
right,
it.
so I for a long time in my career, I kind of didn't want to talk about the fact that I was transgendered, because I didn't want to be, oh, she's such a beautiful transgendered woman. I just wanted to be a beautiful woman, right? I didn't want transgender to be part of my narrative. And then what happened was this 14-year-old transgendered girl killed herself and threw herself in front of an oncoming truck because her parents didn't accept the fact that she was trans. And a lot of the trans kids that I've met along the way don't think that they have success ahead of them because of the fact that they're trans. Thank God the world has changed a lot, and we as humans evolve, and we as humans just we realize that maybe our way of thinking is antiquated, and we need to change and evolve. And so I decided to start talking about it more, because if I can save one life, if I can reach and affect someone at a visceral level that's trans, that maybe they don't kill themselves today. Maybe they see that, oh my God, Alissa Knight has not just sold one, but multiple companies. She's done all these great and amazing things that I want to do and do more of and be better than her. And she's trans. And so that means I can too. And so that's me. It's not about how much gold I die with in my pocket. I don't care about that. What I care about is how many lives can I positively impact while I'm here on Earth.
No, I think that's an awesome message. And thank you so very much for sharing that on stream with everybody. And it takes an immense amount of courage to do that. And so I truly do appreciate that.
Thank you, Neal. And one thing I want to add to that is I guess that probably would be one thing I would change, is I would probably have transitioned sooner than I actually did. I transitioned when I was 27. So I would have liked to and I'm 42 now. There's a lot more gray hair here than you guys can see. It's the wonders of hair dye. But so it's been like what, 20 years
Yeah.
since I transitioned. And so a little less than, but I would have probably transitioned sooner. But you know what, like I said, everything happens for a reason, and I'm happy with where I'm at in life, and
that's awesome.
Every decision along the way that got me here.
That is awesome. That's a fantastic message. Thank you for that. I'm getting word from my moderator team that chat is super supportive of you. They've got, I'm seeing in chat over here, lots of hearts, lots of respects, lots of bravos. I see Jax from Outpost Gray is like, I love her. Yeah, chat appreciates you being incredibly vulnerable with that. So thank you so very much. And chat's super supportive of you.
Thank you, all of you. I love you guys. Thanks.
Back over to Chris, who's got a dev question for you. Says, question: with the high turnover rate in the dev department, what is one thing you do to retain your personnel?
Ooh, yeah, that's a department that you don't want high turnover rate in, obviously. Yeah, because your intellectual property assignment agreements can only take you so far. I always say that agreements are worthless unless you have the money to actually fight it in a court, and money and the time. So losing developers is a bad thing. With the high turnover rate in dev, what is the one thing you retain your personnel? I think I'm gonna throw you a curveball with your question. Whoever just asked that, dude with sunglasses,
Chris.
Chris, I'm going to throw you a curveball. So I'm going to expand that out beyond development, because, like I said, I have started and sold multiple companies. I sold my first company to a public company when I was 20. I started it when I was 17. I sold my second successful startup when I was 27 to a public company as well. And I'm in the middle of exiting on my third. And one of the things I've done is built entire companies from just me in the basement all the way up. To at one point even had 100 people reporting to me. So one thing I can tell you is this: it's not just a dev team problem, and it's not just a dev team solution. It's an all company solution. And for those of, if this is for you, I would check out a gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek. He's written a number of really great books. One is Start with Why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I think the most important lesson here is that making your developers and or your entire company feel like they understand their why for why they're getting up in the morning and writing that code or doing what they're doing for your company. Because you're up against this, and I love this quote. It's like, build your dream or someone will hire you to build theirs. And if you go to work for somebody where you're building their dream, that's okay. That's okay. Entrepreneurship isn't for everybody. But if you're going there and you're working for a company to build their dream, you need to know and be clear on what your why is that will get you up every day to do that same job, which may become very monotonous. So you need to have a very firm belief and understanding of your why to do that. Let me give you an example. There's a great story here. I'm a storyteller, so get ready. So two stonemasons are building a wall. Okay, so I walk up to the first stonemason and I say, "Hey, Neal, what are you building?" And Neal responds, "Alissa, man, I'm out here breaking my back every day in the sun. I'm not really paid much. As a matter of fact, I make horrible pay, but it pays the bills, and I'm building a wall." So, all right, Neal, have a good day. I walk down the lane. I've never met Neal's wife, but I'm going to include her in the story now. So I meet Neal's wife, and she just happened to be a woman, which is great. I say hi to her, and I say, "Hey, look, what are you building? What are you doing?" And she's like, "You know what, Alissa, I'm out here every day, and the sun is shining on me, and I can feel God's spirit in that sun. And I'm making these amazing friends. There's a jerk down the way by the name of Neal, and he's really rude, but I stay away from him. But Alissa, I'm building a cathedral."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, there's Neal who's just building a wall.
Yeah.
And then just a few feet down from him is this other stones mason who's saying, "I'm building a cathedral. And one day, my grandkids will be driving by this cathedral and remember that I built it." Ooh, I just got shivers. So, that's it. Like, it's your why, and I think, Chris, if, it's making sure that your developers and your team members that are waking up every day, they know that they're building a cathedral. They're not just building a wall, and they will go to the ends of the earth for you if you want them to, because they know their why and they know what they're building, and you're all a part of it. I think that there's definitely a difference between a manager and a leader. And more importantly, if you are a leader, Chris, you need to also be a servant leader. And remember that being a leader doesn't always mean leading from the front. It could also mean following from the back.
I think those are all incredibly important lessons. I love it, all of those messages. And I think sometimes we lose focus of the why in our cybersecurity space. I think we're so caught up in the hustle and bustle that is cybersecurity, we always forget about the cathedrals that we're building.
Agreed. We need to all understand what our why is and that we're a part of it, and at the end of the day, maybe it's not always, writing that perfect Ruby exploit or finding that 0 day. Maybe it's simply just, being a part of building something much bigger than that.
That's awesome. Valis comes through and says, how do you find your own niche in cybersecurity? Speaking of that, why?
Ooh, I like that question. If you were to close your eyes, Valis, cool name, by the way. Valis, if you were to close your eyes and say, just start thinking about the things in cybersecurity, whether it's penetration testing or forensics or incident response, what brings a smile to your face? What if I told you, Valis, you have to do this for the next year, the next few years? Is that something that you're willing to wake up every single day and learn something new in? Because remember, it's not up to your manager, it's not up to the company you work for, it's not up to your customers to help to give you that reason. You need to find your own reason, right? It's kind of like that movie a long time ago, if you guys remember, a movie called City Slickers, right? I can't remember the guy's name, but he goes off into the desert and whatever, and he comes back and he realizes that it's not his job that makes him unhappy. It's him who's making him himself unhappy, and he's in charge of his own happiness. So, Valis, the way I would answer that question is, you find your niche by figuring out what would make you happy, and every single day, even let's say for example it's pen testing. Do you know how many different areas of pen testing you can develop your craft in and continue to learn? I mean, I've been doing this for 21 years, and I'll do it for another 21 more, right? But over that total time of 40 years, I could niche myself just in forensics and still not know everything. I could spend the rest of my time on the earth. Let's say I live to 100 years old, God forbid, and I live that long. Hopefully not. I don't want to live that old. But let's say I do live that long. Even if I spent the next 50 years in cybersecurity, like total, I'm still not going to learn everything. Yeah. It's up to me. It's not up to my employer. It's not up to, my customers. It's up to me to figure out what will make me happy developing myself in this particular area. And that's really how simple it is. What will make you happy doing? And remember also, Valis, that you don't have to do it forever. The first part of my career, I was doing log analysis and hack analysis and SIM solutions. For those of you that remember ArcSight and ACID, it's now, then I moved on to incident response and forensics, and now I'm doing penetration testing. Now I'm doing filmmaking. Yeah. I'm always reinventing myself. Life is a bunch of do-overs.
I think that's
continuously do-over.
I think that's important, right? Your niche can change, your passion can change, it can evolve and it can adopt, and that is okay. It doesn't have to be the
same thing.
That is okay.
Dude, do you know the best hackers, the best pen testers I've ever met used to be network engineers. Yeah. Used to be system administrators. Yeah. Because they understand that side of the defense pattern and the defense strategy of hardening Apache or hardening IIS, because they used to do that. And so they know kind of what to look for, those idiosyncratic nuances across these different things. So I mean, you're right. That's exactly it. You don't have to do the same thing and niche yourself. As a matter of fact, if you can learn how to be great at these individual things along your career, it makes you that much more marketable. It makes you that, what? Hey, I've been at this company for 2-3 years. Yeah. In dog years, that's 21 years. And, I want to move on to the next job, and maybe now I want to do incident response instead of pen testing. Yeah. That's the amazing thing about life, is you can continue to reinvent yourself and be someone different.
Fantastic advice. I couldn't agree more. Shirewark wants to know, question for Alissa: how quickly have you achieved RCE or equivalent on a vehicle?
Ooh. I hate timing myself because I am so obsessed with time management. So it gives me an even bigger anxiety attack trying to time myself on a hack. But I do have clients that will be like, okay, listen, hack 30 banks and then time yourself on how long it takes. So it is a thing. Great question, Shirewark. RC on a vehicle. So with a vehicle pen test, it's not really a remote code execution. It's actually obviously similarly taking remote control of it, right, through any kind of means. But to take remote control of a vehicle, the fastest to me it took me about an hour and a half on the first VIN, and that was in the Ford hack, and that was after that includes downloading the Ford Pass mobile app, and then setting up my systems to do the interdiction of the network traffic, and then determining what the API was doing. About an hour and a half later, I had remote control of that car where I could lock and unlock the doors or start and stop the engine.
Could you now that you kind of have a flow for it, could you do it a lot faster now?
Yeah. The more times you do something, right? Because if they say perfection is just being habitual about something,
repetition.
doing something over and over, repetition. And so when you're doing something so many times, no matter who the car maker is or, who the tier 1 OEM is, you sort of kind of know what to look for because they're all kind of rinsing and reusing the same code or rinsing and reusing the same thing. That's another thing I want to remind all of you about. The neat thing about APIs is a lot of organizations you think are actually developing their own APIs and mobile apps. They're actually outsourcing that stuff. So what I'm going to be unveiling at Money 2020 as the keynote speaker this year is on the keynote stage is how I hacked these banks, could wire money in and out of any account and change the PIN code of any bank customer, was because of the fact that in that vulnerability research, I actually found that they outsourced it to a company. I met with their CEO, and the CEO got woken up in the middle of the night because this affected 300 other banks. So, what's happening is with these organizations is they're outsourcing it, and these development houses, these companies that exist only to develop mobile apps and APIs, are rinsing and reusing the same code. Why am I going to rewrite the code for Neal, when Cyber Lola comes along and wants an API, and it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to rinse and reuse that code, and the vulnerabilities come with it.
No, I think that gets back to your point about a risk management framework or risk assessments earlier, right? Is third party risk management, like who is your third party and what are they doing from a development perspective?
Exactly.
Speaking of Cyber Lola, she comes through and says, question for Alissa. I think you are a born leader. I should. Cyber Lola is one of our awesome aspirants as well. She's done an amazing job coming into cybersecurity. She says, what can someone who doesn't have your same confidence do to one day achieve your same kind of high quality leadership?
Oh man. I really believe that great leaders aren't born. I think great leaders are made. I really believe that people don't read as much as they used to, and it's really becoming, unfortunately, a dying thing. I would say that the answer to your question, Cyber Lola, is reading. I've read so many great books. For those of you who are interested in the books that I've read to become the leader I am today, go on to Goodreads. It's basically a global book club. It's like a social network for readers and authors. So you can actually search for me on Goodreads and you can see my entire bookshelf of books. And all of the leadership books in my Kindle library are books that I've read on leadership and developing myself as a leader. I've always believed myself to be kind of like this lump of clay that I can continue to form and make better each and every day. So every book that I've read has developed me to become a better person. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another great book. That's a great book for leaders. Turn This Ship Around. That's another great book on leadership. Simon Sinek has some great books on leadership, and his whole talking about the golden circle. I would say the answer to your question, Cyber Lola, is reading. I wasn't born this way. Maybe I was born as an extrovert versus an introvert, but, I took that and I developed myself to who I am today by simply just reading great books.
You said something earlier about leaders that I think is important for you to kind of reiterate on, if you can, when you talk about this leadership trait, right? Is good leaders are also good followers. Can you talk just really quickly about what that means and kind of elaborate on that in the term of leadership?
Yeah, a lot of people think that leadership is leading from the front and, marching onto the battlefield with all your soldiers behind you. Sometimes being a great leader is following the people that work for you and serving them. It's basically this concept of servitude to the people that follow you. And still being their leader, but not necessarily having to lead from out front. It's like one of my favorite quotes, at the end of the day, it's not about, the fact that I did it, it's that we did it together. And I think being a great leader is actually building other great leaders. That's the primary responsibility of a leader, is actually being able to take the people that follow you and work for you and actually developing them into leaders. And that is true scale, right? So I think one of the most important lessons that I learned as a leader was that one of the most important skills that I need to develop is my ability to listen and listen to those who follow me, and as a leader, and then realize that, hey, you know what, I can still be a leader, but I can follow them, and putting them in a position of authority, responsibility, accountability, and authority, or RAA, to be able to actually make a determination on what decision we should take in order to achieve a specific outcome, and then following them, even though I'm their leader, even though I'm the CEO or their boss's boss. Why should we make that decision as a team? And then letting them make that decision, even though they're not a leader. But what you're doing is you're grooming a future leader, and being able to groom them to have the confidence to trust and believe in themselves to achieve a particular outcome. And actually, Cyber Lola, another great book that would I recommend all of you to read, is from a gentleman by the name of Ray Dalio. He's the founding partner and principal of Bridgewater, and he wrote a great book called Principles. And it's this idea of meritocracy and leadership, where it's basically decisions are made based on the merit of the person who's volunteering the idea. And that's how Bridgewater is run. And it's one of the world's most successful private equity funds. And so it's a meritocracy where, based on your merit and previously successful decisions, are the decisions that are followed by the organization, not based on whether or not you're in a leadership role. So someone who's a janitor can come along in a meritocracy and make a decision for the organization. And if they have the merit to be able to propose it, and they have a previously successful decisions and outcomes, it's followed. So it's a very interesting concept. So I would take a look at Principles. It's a very good book.
I think that's awesome advice. It's amazing you mentioned that, because I actually did do an interview and make it to the final stages at Bridgewater. That is an intense
company.
It's an intense company. Alissa, we are at the top of the hour, and because you do keep super diligent track of your time, I want to be hyper respectful of that. Thank you so very much for spending 2 hours with me in this community. I couldn't be more thankful that you took us up on our offer. The floor is yours, ma'am, if you'd like to say goodbye to the community as I push you off to the green room and talk to them after you leave.
Thank you so much, Neal. And thank you all of you who took your time out today to listen to me and get to know me better. Definitely reach out to me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. For all of you who are sitting there wondering at night, how do I pay it forward with all the influencers out there who are taking their time out to create content, create videos, create white papers? It's not sending me money. It's simply just subscribing to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, watch our videos, like our content, reshare it, retweet it. That's how you can support content creators and influencers like myself, like Neal, is sharing our content and telling your friends about it and watching it, especially to help with those algorithms on YouTube, which Neal is learning very fast here. And so thank you to all of you. I appreciate all of you and everything that you guys and girls are doing to make this community better. There's a lot of hate out there right now. There's a lot of indifference. Take care of yourselves and each other. Just be kind to each other. That's my parting last words, and just know that all of you are masterpieces, and I appreciate all of you for your contributions to this community.
Very inspirational, Alissa. And last words from BSec says, Alissa is just killing this stream. So many truth bombs. Alissa,
thank you,
have
BSec.
a fantastic evening. Hopefully you get to go back and enjoy the rest of your Thai food, and I'll see you later. Awesome stream, everybody. That was utterly fantastic. I want to thank Alissa again for such a fantastic stream. She truly was a bless to have on. Real quick, let's cover down on the Healthy Hackers conversation that I promised you all at the beginning of the stream. I'm checking my notes really quick. And I do have to announce the results of the Healthy Hackers giveaway. So as many of you know, if you go back over to YouTube, you can see that we posted up a video. It was about about 7 days ago, I think it was now, that we posted up a video that talked about the importance of physical and mental health. And you heard Alissa mention a little bit of that on YouTube as well. Well, as luck would have it, BSec challenged me to a friendly competition using our Apple Watches to kind of track our fitness levels. And over the last 7 days, BSec and I have been jabbing each other on the socials and in Discord to push each other further. I have to say, BSec is a fierce competitor. I didn't anticipate his competitiveness at all as we went into this competition. He put up a good fight. But at the end of the day, he did end up winning. Why do my notes say that he won? Wait a minute, which intern wrote these notes? What? BSec won? What? Wait a minute. Which Josh wrote these notes? What Josh wrote these notes? BSec. Whoa. Checking Apple Fitness. BSec won. How did this happen? No, in all fairness, BSec did a great job. Here's my humble speech to BSec, right? BSec I was serious about that. He was a fierce competitor. He did a fantastic job. Here's what I'll tell you. It is important to lose, and I've got no problem admitting that I lost to BSec. He did a really good job. He pushed me really hard. Here's kind of how it went down, right? And I'll post the picture of this competition up on Twitter, so you can see. I slacked off the first day because I was like, "Oh, this is fine. I'm not really worried about BSec." And then he figured out how to maximize the points on Apple Fitness the same time that I did, and he started pushing himself to max out the points Tuesday and then Wednesday. And then by Wednesday, we both realized that we were both working really, really hard to do this. And I did not finish out after Thursday and Friday. I took a break. I was feeling a little bit of that old man, creeping in on me on Thursday and Friday. And so I want to thank BSec for helping me find a weakness. In terms of my physical ability, recovery is important. But I did end up finding a part of me that could end up being worked on a little bit more. And so I want to thank BSec for that. And so, here's what we're going to do. We are going to, go through the comments. We're going to find a random person who commented hashtag BSec wins. Because that was the guest, or that was the guarantee. Pay attention to Twitter. If you did hashtag BSec wins, pay attention to Twitter tomorrow. We will pull a random person's name. You will have 2 days, 48 hours, right, to message me on Discord. Make sure you hit that exclamation point Discord. That you were the person who won. And we're going to give you, checking the prize pool here from my lucky prize pool, we're going to give you an Adrian Cantrell's All the Things, current and future. You'll never pay for anything again on Adrian Cantrell's site. As we talk about like the need for more cloud training and more cloud expertise and things like that going on, we're going to add to that by doing an Adrian Cantrell All the Things giveaway. So do make sure you pay attention to Twitter. We will pick a random person. We're going to check dates. So anybody who runs out to Twitter or runs out to the comments section of YouTube right now and does hashtag BSec wins, that's not gonna fly. It's got to be prior to today. So nice try. I know who you are. With that being said, good job to BSec. Obviously, hashtag HealthyHackers continues on. Make sure you continue to tag both myself, BSec, all of us who are sharing in your journey with you when it comes to sharing in your healthy lifestyle. I do see that the mods did add a channel on Discord called hashtag HealthyHacker. I want to thank everybody who is sharing their story of healthy hacker, journeys. And listen, I want to remind everybody, it isn't just about the physical journey, right? I know that BSec and I competed on, from a physical journey perspective. And that's what I've been focused on. It is also about the mental health. And I speak to that in my videos, is that it is also about the mental health. And so do make sure that you are paying attention to your physical and mental health together. It's not always about weight loss. It can be about healthy eating habits. It can be about healthy lifestyle choices. It can be about healthy mental choices. It is about making sure that you are mentally prepared for this challenge. As Alissa said on stream, we have an incredibly stressful job. Lots of demands are put on us. It's incredibly toxic. You've got to juggle lots of priorities and lots of time schedules. And so it is important to have physical health and mental health as we embark on this journey. Last minute notes, and then we're going to go ahead and move on. Do remember that I did post up a story on YouTube. It's a Q&A, so you can head on over to YouTube, hit that Q&A, ask your question in the comments, and I'll get you a personalized response. We do have some awesome content that is coming out this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody for Old Guy Wednesday on Wednesday, as well as Tea with a Hacker on Friday. Thank you so very much for tuning in tonight. You all are the best community in the entire world. I do truly appreciate every single solid one of you. God, so hyped. So hyped. And I'll get you next time, BSec. I'll get you next time. And listen, whether you're on the red side, whether you're on the blue side, whether you're still deciding, keep learning. And I'll see y'all on Wednesday.